All right. First rule of this channel is we do not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So welcome to After Waivers Week 9. What we're looking at now is roster construction, moving proactively from the bye weeks into the playoff run. So I usually carry a lot of 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, 2 defenses, one to be my weekly use and one to stream. I'm also really big on my handcuffs and guys that I know have massive league winning upside. So a lot of those guys that are outside of, I know that I'm going to run them from a bye week perspective. I don't want on my roster because we only can have so many spots available. Let's see. I brought this up last week. There should be very few surprises left on the season. We should basically know what everybody is at this point. Let's see. Hopefully I can keep this one short. I know I said this last week and then I went like an hour and a half. But I just don't want to be ripping off stats. And then I am working on the re-ranking videos for the players coming forward if I can get those done. But if I keep doing like multiple takes of this thing, then that's not going to happen. Week 9 buys, the Broncos, no one cares. The Lions, the Jaguars, and the Niners. Week 10, so I can plan ahead. The Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Eagles. Oof. Let's see. Some of the stuff I talked about, I may or may not repeat myself from the Chasing the Dragon video. So if you guys want to go check that out, if you want to go knife fights over waivers this week. So the Niners, Brock Purdy, got you there from a fantasy perspective, from a real football perspective. 2 interceptions, another fumble. Should have had a 3rd interception. One of the interceptions was a good play by the defense. I am not saying that he's going to get benched. I'm not saying he's bad at football. What I'm saying is where there's smoke, there's fire, and I should plan accordingly. So I'm not running to the waiver wire seeing what's left. CMC owned the backfield. Elijah Mitchell was the only other back there, 12% of the snaps. No Jordan Mason. If you're into cuffing CMC, 60% I would guess is what you're going to get out of Elijah Mitchell. No Debo, but he should be back after the bye. That's going to downgrade Ayuk and Kittle. Juwan Jennings was at 85% snaps, no targets in this game. Ray McLeod came in 49% snaps, 2 for 2 for 43. The defense is a hold over the bye week. They did trade for Chase Young from the Redskins. The Bears. Justin Fields could practice this week. Reports are that Tyson Bagent will go again. Tyson Bagent was in that serviceable range. I think there's some coaching problems there. I watched some of this. There's some coaching stuff. Bagent is going to be limited, especially at this stage of his career. He's a D2 undrafted guy. Not surprising. The coaches didn't help him out. The interesting thing from the backfield perspective with Herbert coming back week 10 is that Roshan was at 36% snaps, 6 for 21, 4 for 3 for 10. And Donta Foreman was only at 32% snaps, 9 for 34, 2 for 1 for 2. Darian Evans, the 3rd string guy, was at 27% snaps, 4 for 18 and a tug 2-minute drill, and then a 4 for 3 for 22. His snap share has been 36, 48, and 27 in the last three weeks. And then if that continues, who knows what's going to happen with the backfield with the inconsistency of whether or not this offense is good or bad or okay. And then 4 potential guys getting work in the backfield. I don't want any part of it. DJ Moore is okay, even with Bagent, 88% snaps, 6 for 4 for 55. Cole Kmet, you should know what you're getting, 83% snaps, 10 for 10 for 79. Anybody that's a tight end that can operate as the number 1 and number 2 in an offense, regardless, is usually got value. We'll talk about the Raiders later on. The Bears, after the 49ers, they traded for the other defensive end for the Redskins, Montez Sweat. And there probably are better options moving forward, but they do have at the Saints and then the Carolina Panthers, who could not block the Texans. All right, the Bengals. So Joe Burrow took snaps from under center. He was 6 for 43 on the ground. It means he's healthy. That means the offense is supposed to be what we think it's supposed to be. I like all that. It pushes Joe Burrow back into that like sub-elite range of fantasy quarterbacks. Joe Mixon, okay pieces attached to good offenses, 75% snaps, 16 for 87, a touchdown, 3 for 3 for 23, high-end RB2 just because of the situation. Travion Williams, 17% snaps, 2 for 6 on the ground. Chase Brown, that we were expecting to see that uptick, he was sneakily IR'd on Saturday with a hamstring. Again, I might guess like hamstring or roster shenanigans. Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, surprisingly, was at 67% snaps, may still not be healthy. 6 for 5 for 69, but I think he will get there eventually. Tyler Boyd, 86% snaps, 3 for 3 for 40 and a tug. The two interesting things from dynasty perspective, Trenton Irwin hanging around at 27% snaps, 2 for 2 for 24. And then Andre Iovas, who I have no idea about, 6th-round pick out of Princeton, 6'3", 212, like 4.47 guy. Back-to-back weeks where he's got a red zone target. So I imagine he's a package guy. And his target share, even with Higgins being all over the place, 10, 19, 32. So from a fantasy perspective, a dynasty perspective, getting a hold of the number 2 and number 3 options of the Bengals offense next year would interest me, because it's going to cost me relatively nothing to find out, because Boyd and T. Higgins are going to be free agents next year. Let's see. Irv Smith, not a thing. Defense is a weekly start going forward after Buffalo, Houston, not Baltimore, Pittsburgh, maybe Jacksonville, the Colts, Minnesota, because the quarterbacks, we'll talk about them, Pittsburgh again, and not Kansas City. So I can roll out the Bengals on a near week-to-week basis and then stream around them being 1 week ahead as I get into the playoffs. So that's something I like. The Bills, Josh Allen, not going to talk about him because he did Josh Allen things. Cook burns you again, 67% snaps, 14 for 67, 1 for 1 for 6. Latavius Murray didn't get it done in the red zone, 33%, 5 for 7, 1 for 1 for 4. Leonard Fournette, Uncle Lenny, he signed with the practice squad. And this is a big if, but pieces of good offenses that get the right work. Red zone, receiving work, that's what Uncle Lenny does. So if I was going to take a wild shot in the dark, Uncle Lenny would have value, especially with how few running backs are seeming to get home this year. Diggs, 12 targets. Gabe Davis, 12 targets and a tug. And they moved Gabe Davis around the formation, something they haven't done before. Like, this would potentially like up his overall week-to-week value. Khalil Shakur, 65% snaps, a season high by about double, 6 for 6 for 92. I'm not buying because you outside of a very few offenses that can support like 2 guys, let alone a third or a fourth. And with Dalton Kincaid there at 84% snaps, the highest he's had since week 1 at 80, 7 for 5 for 65 and a touch. So Khalil Shakur as a wide receiver 3 has a harder road to win me a week than Dalton Kincaid does as a tight end. And I'm going to put my money on Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakur outside of like very deep leagues because of the passing volume. Allen did 40 attempts. I'm just not interested in Khalil Shakur at all. There are probably better guys with more upside. We'll talk about Shaheed from the Saints later. Dawson Knox is on IR until week 12. So Kincaid's going to be a tight end 1 until then. I bet the Bills live in 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers. And the Bills disappointed again on defense. You can go ahead and roll them out again at the Broncos and the Jets week 10 and 11. And they do have the Patriots in the chip. The Broncos, I want no pieces of this. We'll talk about Javonte real quick. Russ, who cares? Javonte was at 63% snaps, 27 to 85 inefficient, 3 for 3 for 13 and a tug. And here's the problem. How often are the Broncos going to be in a game script to give him that high of a workload? And then how often are the Broncos going to be good enough to get into the red zone to give him the opportunity to score touchdowns? Jaleel McLaughlin was at 11% snaps, 4 for 33, 2 for 2 for 6. He's efficient when he gets work. P. Ryan's at 24% snaps, 1 for 5 for 3 for 2 for 6. And again, that's just more work being taken away from Javonte, and Javante's not going to have the upside to lose any work to get me there. I'm praying for a 40-degree day. Let's see. Sutton, and again, I don't want any pieces of this. He got there with a touchdown. Jerry Jeudy season low, 59% snaps. Brandon Johnson was IR. And again, I don't care about any of this stuff. Marvin Mims, not a thing. And believe it or not, the Broncos defense has some value going forward. A week 11 and 12, Minnesota and Cleveland because of their quarterback situations. This is the team that got 70 hung on them by the Dolphins and then turned around and held the Chiefs to like 1 touchdown. The Browns. Let's see. Watson, the coach said that Deshaun Watson can be back whenever he's ready, whatever that means. PJ Walker's a turnover machine, 2 picks and a fumble lost. Wouldn't be surprised if they turn back to DTR at this point. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, Pierre Strong. It looks like a running back by committee. So Ford was back surprisingly from the ankle after 1 week, did 33% snaps. Hunt 35% snaps. He got the tug. Jerome Strong or Pierre Strong 31% snaps. 1 for 41. Saw him lined up wide. I don't. It's not a good offense. I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like. Limited opportunity to score touchdowns, and now it's 3 guys that I think will get cannibalize all the value work. Maybe Kareem Hunt, maybe he's the guy. Maybe they see what they have other places. Maybe it's just better off at somebody else's problem and I upgrade. Amari Cooper, 81% snaps, 11, which I like. Targets, 6 for 89. Wide receiver 2, a little bit of boom bust there, I'm going to guess. Elijah Moore was returning punts, so maybe some sneaky appeal, other ways to get you there. David Njoku, design passing work in the screen game, 78% snaps, 8 for 77, and a tug. I do like that. Let's see. And then I have written down here, maybe Deshaun Watson returns and the offense becomes serviceable. Who knows? Maybe a lot of things. And the defense is a weekly roll. They go Arizona and then not against at Baltimore. The Bucks. So Baker Mayfield's bad at football. Cinderella, came back to earth. I watched this game. I don't know what he's doing. You're lucky that Evans got there. The ball bounced off the defender's helmet into Mike Evans' arms. Let's see. I'm buying Rachaad White, even though I don't like to buy pieces of bad offenses. You're probably not going to get a hold of anything that's much better. Rachaad White did 82% snaps, 9 for 39. One got called back. A good run got called back on a holding penalty. 7 for 70. Should have been better, but Baker Mayfield sucks at checking the football down. And again, you're not going to be able to afford much better than Rachaad White in that volume-based RB2 land. Keyshawn Vaughn was at 6% snaps, 4 for 7 for 1 for 1. And Chase Edmond was at 12% snaps, 3 for 5, 3 for 2 for 16. Really doesn't bother me with the Rachaad White. I'm basically buying a wide receiver that has a little bit of rushing upside to go into my running back 2 slot. Let's see. Chris Godwin's on pace for 92 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 2 or 3 touchdowns. I would sell that because the touchdowns aren't going to win you a league. Mike Evans is on pace for 80 receptions, 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. That 12 touchdowns may win me a league. Trey Palmer, I watched the tape live. I was unimpressed, but then when I watched it again, I think Baker Mayfield just couldn't get him the football. But there wasn't a lot of vertical shots going to him, and that's what I would be looking for when it comes to the possibility of a weekly streamer, that upside. Cade Otton, 97% snaps, 6 for 4 for 27. And the defense is a sneaky play at Houston and then Tennessee, depending on what Will Levis shakes out to be. All right, the Cardinals. So Josh Dobbs, who still is a low-end starter for the Cardinals, doesn't matter anymore. He got traded to the Vikings. The big thing is Amari DiMercado, 55% snaps, 20 carries, 78 yards, 1 for 1. That production doesn't bother me against Baltimore. What bothers me is the lack of receiving work and the red zone usage to go along with it. So they didn't throw to the running backs in the red zone, and Josh Dobbs vultured the goal line carry for a touchdown. Keontae Ingram was at 38% snaps, 2 for 9, 1 for 7. Damian Williams, only 4% snaps, went out with a toe. Keontae Ingram was in late when Trey McBride scored his touchdown. And I'm going to guess this is going to be a running back by committee. Connor may or may not be back. I can't predict what the usage is going to be. It's against Cleveland. You may only get one more week out of Amari DiMercado. Kind of a coin flip if I'm going to chase that opportunity, or I think Keontae Ingram's going to eat into that a little bit. So the other thing is Hollywood Brown, only 29 air yards, got it done with a tug, 9 targets. But Michael Wilson had the 72 air yards. Sometimes chasing air yards is good. Sometimes it's bad. 88 snaps, 6 for 4 for 58. That might be the guy to own with Kyler coming back. So Trey McBride is the bell of the ball. 82% snaps, 14 for 10, 95, a touchdown, 92 air yards. I like all of this. There was design, passing plays, screen plays. He made a great catch on a seam ball late in the game. Had a drop. I liked everything that I saw except for the drop. The defense actually has some sneaky appeal coming up if you want to look into that. Let's see. The Chargers, Justin Herbert got it done against the Bears. Luckily, Austin Eckler, the receiving work is back, 8 for 7, 94, a touchdown and a fumble lost. Josh Kelly, 22% snaps, 6 for 21. I'm not sure he's worth rostering as a handcuff. He couldn't get it done when he had the backfield to himself. So some interesting stuff with the Chargers wide receivers. So to start off with, Josh Palmer was at 68% snaps, 4 for 3 for 24, in and out with knee and ankle problems. Kind of questionable whether or not he's going to play. But Quentin Johnston, 70% snaps, 6 for 5 for 50, drew a flag on one of the design plays, had a deep shot towards the end zone. Really raw. We've been talking about him all year. But again, he's a buy low or a stash. And in this case, like I was talking about, not comparable to the Sun God, but the run that the Sun God had a couple years ago. You're buying a guy that could be attached to a good offense that could end up being the number one when it comes from what we want from a production standpoint from fantasy, the opportunities that we want. So if Keenan Allen is the underneath guy and Quentin Johnson is going to get the design work and the deep shots, like that has more value down the line. So that's something to be paying attention to because the Chargers are a good offense. So like it can support more toys. So the other thing to look at, Gerald Everett was out. So Donald Parman could have been a streamer. 62% snaps, 6 for 4 for 43 and a tug. So again, the Chargers tight ends, if one of them's out, the other one's probably can be used. The defense has some appeal to stream going as a hold and stream going forward with their schedule. So like on and off Jets, Lions, Packers, Ravens, Pats, Broncos, Raiders, Buffalo, and Broncos. So I can every other week I can hold them and roll somebody else out on the bad matchups. So the Chiefs, everybody's talking about Patrick Mahomes being sick. It's not just that Patrick Mahomes is sick. This is something that we've been following all year long. 2 picks and a fumble lost. So they just don't use their personnel right. They're basically tipping their hand like it's poker. So Pacheco, 54% snaps, 8 for 40, 4 for 3 for -3. Not design passing work. Not what we want to see from a high end running back. How often are the Chiefs going to have negative game scripts? It doesn't matter. McKinnon was at 41% snaps, 2 for -2, 2 for 2 for 11, and the only red zone carry. And then Clyde got in there with 3% snaps at the end. And again, how I would look at this is, can I upgrade my Pacheco shares to a team that doesn't understand how the value of certain usage from a fantasy perspective? So from the wide receiver core, it's the same problem. So outside of Rashid Rice, who was at 61% snaps, 6 for 4 for 56, did get a red zone target, only 17% air yard. So he's going to have a cap ceiling, but at this point, I think it's a relatively safe floor attached to this offense. Tony was at 20% snaps, Sky Moore 54% snaps, 43% or 43 air yards and a drop. MVS 57% snaps, 71 air yards. Watson 36% snaps, 68 air yards, and McCole Hardman 36% snaps. They're tipping their hand. That's part of the reason why they're getting in the situation that they're in, because when you have even a bad defense and they know what you're going to do when you roll it out there, they can predict it and they can take it away. And then Kelsey is a unicorn, and Noah Gray is hanging around there as like a tight end handcuff or value in Dynasty for if and when Kelsey hangs it up. 48% snaps, 3 for 2 for 25. Defense is a hold, and I would just be rolling them out regardless of who their matchup is. Dolphins, Philadelphia, if you're wondering if you need to stream with them. So the Colts, Gardner Minshew, again, low-end starter, high-end streamer. Jonathan Taylor may have an ankle injury, something to monitor going forward. 61% snaps, 12 for 95, 2 for 1 for 2. Zach Moss was at 39% snaps, mostly in the second half. 11 for 66, a tug, 1 for 1 for 8. See, Michael Pittman, 99% snaps. 13 targets I like. The 8 for 40, low efficiency I don't like. Got a tug. He's on pace for 106 yards or 106 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 6 or 7 touchdowns. Again, just leave them. Don't worry about it. Probably not going to be able to upgrade that. Alec Pierce, only 27% air yards, 94% snaps. Josh Downs, probably the guy to own right now in this offense. 80% snaps, 9 for 7, 72, 60 air yards, team leader. Kyle Granson was out. So there's something going on with Andrew Ogletree. I don't know what it is. 54% snaps, 3 for 1, 33 yards, a tug, 65 air yards as a tight end. probably has more value as a stash in Dynasty. Mo Alley Cox was at 32% snaps and Will Mallory 21% snaps. It may not be predictable from a tight end standpoint for the Colts this year. And the defense has some value, especially in the playoffs. They have like the Raiders going on. So the Redskins sold off both of their defensive ends. Sam Howell's playing with fire, but with Kirk Cousins shut down, somebody else has to be that roller coaster. He's projected for 4,500 yards, 28 tugs, 17 picks, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 fumbles, which is quarterback 8, which is also very close to Kirk Cousins' stat line last year, and probably very close to how predictive the Sam Howell, Kirk Cousins are going to be week to week. Brian Robinson, 49% snaps, 10 for 59, 2 for 2 for 20, 1 red zone carry. Antonio Gibson, 51% snaps, 2 for 14, 5 for 5 for 28, a red zone target. Yeah, I don't want any part of that. It's not going to be predictive. Chris Rodriguez, 0 snaps, have no idea. And even if you get lucky because you own one of these guys and there's an injury, I'm sure Chris Rodriguez will just go in there and hoover up the other 50% of work. Scary Terry was at 94% snaps, 12 targets, 12 targets, 5 receptions, 63 yards, a tug, 128 air yards. I'm buying this, especially with how the offense is set up. Curtis Samuel's out with a toe. Jahan Johnson, I was interested in yesterday, 10 for 8 for 108 and a tug, 75 air yards. Jamison Crowder came in, 32% of snaps, 7 for 7 for 95 and a tug. I'm a little concerned that like the potential for the opening for the opportunity for Dotson is going to be hoovered up by Crowder. So I'm less enthusiastic about rolling out that piece. Logan Thomas, 74% snaps, 8 for 644 and a tug. Welcome to the tight end wasteland if you're rolling them out. And their defense, I don't have any more appeal in because they sold off some of their pieces. The Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, 4 tugs. He's going to be very volatile because of the other toys in the offense and the defense. But yeah, he's probably a weekly starter. Tony Pollard, yeah, he's a buy if you can get someone to sell. Yeah, he's a sell if you can. I have no idea. There's going to be so many tight or running backs out there that have value. Rico Dowdle is the guy that I'd be more interested in as the cuff because he has a pathway to league winner. This last game in a blowout, 35% snaps, 5 for 18, 2 for 2 for 7. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb, yeah, got you there, 158, 2 tugs. If you're wondering about Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks, I don't think they're relevant. I don't think they're going to be predictive. I don't even think we can predict what the game flow for the Dallas Cowboys are going to be on a week-to-week basis. The one guy that I would be interested in is Jake Ferguson again, 80% snaps, 4 for 4 for 47 and a touchdown on a seam ball. Again, I'm stashing him, I'm streaming him, and I'm prepared to go into the playoffs. Again, this is a roster construction thing mostly. And then the defense, yeah, just roll them out. Dolphins, Tua's got a really rough schedule. I can pull this up if I can. So Tua's playoff schedule is the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Ravens. So I want to be holding a second quarterback if I'm the Tua owner. He is on pace for a ridiculous, where did I write this down? 5,100 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 15 picks. But that playoff schedule is what really concerns me. The other things I'm concerned with is the running back situation for the Dolphins. Mostert was at 56% snaps, 13 for 46 and a touchdown. But Jeff Wilson and Solomon Ahmed were both at 25% snaps. And they took a lot of the usage, 7 total carries and another 6 receptions. And then you have to predict which one of these guys falls into the end zone. A-Chain's going to come back week 11. Yeah, maybe it's time to buy. Hopefully you guys can hear that motorcycle. Tyreek Hill is down to 51 or 2150 projecting receiving yards this year. Waddle got home. Chase Claypool, 14% snaps, 2 for 1 for 15. It's time to start thinking about stashing pieces of him. Braxton Berrios is the slot at 53% snaps, and Cedric Wilson was at a season low 30% snaps. So I could definitely see Chase Claypool being that guy attached to this offense going forward that you can buy relatively cheap and see if the uptick continues. If you wait until next week, he may pop up on everybody's radar. And I have written down for their defense. I can probably drop them and then pick them up next week coming out of the bye. They have the Raiders, the Jets, the Redskins, the Titans, and the Jets again. Good offenses, score points, put pressure on the other team's offense. They make mistakes. Speaking of the Eagles, Hurts fumbled at the 1 yard line, cost you 6 points. So Swift and Gainwell. Swift was at 70% snaps, 16 for 57 and a touchdown, 4 red zone carries, another 3 for 2 for 7 in the passing game. I want to see what his usage is next week with the Kenny Gainwell fumble and the red zone, because they keep giving work to Kenny Gainwell in the red zone. He also had 5 for 5 for 30 in the passing game. And that's what's going to move Swift out of running back 1 land into running back 2 land. A.J. Brown is a league winner. He's on pace for nearly 2,000 yards receiving, 128 receptions and 11 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, he just because of 1 week, he moved up from that like bust range to maybe he'll get you there. 82 receptions, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Julio Jones was at 24% snaps, 2 targets, 1 receptions, 8 yards, and a touchdown. His role is probably going to be in the red zone, which is going to downgrade everybody, including Dallas Goedert. Let's see. And the defense disappointed at the Washington Redskins and sack machine Sam Howell. And their schedule is not something I would be running them against until the semis. The Falcons. So supposedly Desmond Ridder lost a fumble, and then he got taken out because of the concussion protocol. He cleared the protocol, and then he just didn't put him back in the game. Arthur Smith is a bad coach. Taylor Heineke went in. He did 12 for 21, 175 yards and a touchdown, 2 for 14. And they don't know who they're going to run next week. And I don't know who's an upgrade because the coaches suck anyway. So Bijan, 74% snaps, 11 for 62, a tug. Man, he's really good at football. I watched the tape on this. He's not a wide receiver. Some of his targets came with him in the slot or out wide, and he basically got scared with the football because he's not a wide receiver and he's probably not getting reps as a wide receiver, doesn't have the timing down with the quarterback. On the off chance that the owner is selling, I would be buying Bijan, but I would keep my expectations capped that he's an upside RB2. Tyler Algier is at 22% snaps, 8 for 31, 1 red zone carry. So, yeah, he's a cuff. And Cordell Patterson is going to continue to eat into everything, 18% snaps. Drake London left the game with a groin injury, 54% snaps, 7 for 5 for 55. And I'm just going to chase those targets even with bad coaching. Van Jefferson is eating into the workload. He's up to 71% snaps, traded from the Rams, 5 for 3 for 24, 75 air yards. So again, if you're chasing that spike week, it's going to be there. Mac Hollins, not really a thing. And then the other side, so Pitts was at 60% snaps. Jonnu Smith was at 71% snaps. Pitts had 51 air yards, 5 for 3 for 35, highest usage since week 4. And Jonnu Smith 1 for 1 for 13. I have no idea. I don't trust bad coaching. And the defense has a lot of rest of season appeal if you're into that type of thing. So the Giants traded Leonard Williams to the Seahawks. The Seahawks looks like they're all in. Giants look like they're in tank mode. Danny Dimes is expected to practice. He may play. They elevated, Tommy DeVito to the active roster. Tyrod Taylor is week to week with a rib injury. They're really bad. There was like -7 total passing yards on the team. There's not a lot to talk about. I don't care. Barkley got a whole bunch of volume. Daniel Bellinger is a guy to be stashing if Daniel Dimes comes back, because he has the possibility of inheriting maybe part of a bad passing offense. The roster does, or the schedule does open up a little bit. Bellinger as a tight end was almost fantasy relevant last year. The Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence is maybe a safe floor streamer at this point. ETN elite usage. His touchdown came on him lined up wide on a go ball, and he won. So he's a league winner if you got him. Tank Bigsby came in and fumbled, so not a handcuff. I'm selling Calvin Ridley, 10 for 6 for 83. Reason behind that is because I just don't trust who's going to get the week-to-week usage. Christian Kirk, 66% snaps, 5 for 4 for 46. Zay Jones, maybe he's going to be back after the bye. That's just another mouth to feed. Evan Ingram's design passing work, 10 for 10 for 88. if you're using him in tight end one land. Lost a fumble. Brenton Strange, 41% snaps, so they are trying to get him on the field, it looks like. And the defense does have some limited appeal until the playoffs. The Jets. So Zach Wilson is bad at football. We knew that. He got it done late. 2 fumbles. Breece Hall, 64% of snaps, 81% of touches. Let's see. 50-yard touchdown. That was really pretty. 9 for 6 for 76 in the passing game. Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, not a thing. Garrett Wilson, 13 targets, 7 receptions, 100 yards. Maybe a buy, maybe a sell. Maybe just be happy that he's producing. Conklin, not even streamable at this point. 69% snaps, 2 targets. Defense, Chargers, and then at Las Vegas. Let's see. The Lions on Monday night, Jared Goff threw a pick 6. Not worth holding. He lacks the passing volume and the touchdowns. Montgomery's going to be back after the bye more than likely, and he has no rushing floor. I have no news on David Montgomery. Gibbs was elite, 70% snaps, 26 carries, 152 yards, a touchdown, another 5 for 5 for 37. And I bet this is going to be pretty close to a 60-40 split. Gibbs getting design work and Montgomery getting all the dirty work in the goal line. Probably going to lower their overall individual value, but they're both probably going to be startable like they were beforehand. But Gibbs now, much better, much more accustomed to what they're going to be using him for. Craig Reynolds was at 28% of snaps, lost the fumble, but in his limited role, 17 for 74, 1 for 1 for 12. So, maybe he's a cuff to Montgomery and Gibbs going forward. Who knows? I don't know if the game script is going to necessarily be in a situation where he's used like this. The Sun God came up surprise illness and then played 92% of snaps, 9 for 6 for 102. So Jameson Williams, I had written down, was worth picking up out of the bye, and then the Lions went and traded for the Browns, Donovan People-Jones, and now I don't care about Jameson Williams at all because they kind of occupy the same role, and I don't know how they would coexist. Already some speculation that the Lions are over Jameson Williams and his drops and other stuff. So anyway, Sam Laporta, 94% snaps, season high, 10 for 8 for 57 at Tug. Congratulations. Defense is a hold over the bye at Chargers, Chicago, Green Bay, at the Saints, and at the Chicago Bears again. So, again, good offenses putting pressure on other teams' offenses to make mistakes. The Packers, Jordan Love is bad at football. I shouldn't have to tell you that. So I watched the tape. And I got the analytics. I can actually pull up the analytics. So Jordan Love, overall advanced statistics. Jordan Love, 58% completions, which is low. And then he also has the 5th most amount of poor throws by the advanced analytics. So what does that mean? Well, it means that even when they push the ball down the field, Romeo Doubs, 105 air yards. Christian Watkins, 119 air yards. Jaden Reed had 83 real yards. Don Donovan Wicks was at 46 air yards. It doesn't matter because Jordan Love is not able to be accurate enough to get the football there. There's also some coaching problems there that I don't like. So I want to pivot off of all these toys as much as I can. Aaron Jones was at a season high in snaps at 51%, but only did 7 for 29, 5 for 4 for 17. Maybe he's a buy because there's so few running backs that are available, but A.J. Dillon did 61% of snaps, 6 for 11, but he got the 5 for 41 on the air that should have been going to Aaron Jones. I don't know. I have no idea. Jaden Reed, maybe he's a buy with the 83 real yards. And Luke Musgrave, 17% snaps, but 12 air yards, 3 for 2 for 9. So probably none of these guys are going to be very fantasy relevant outside of catching lightning in a bottle. Defense does have some value at the Rams, home for the Rams and at Pittsburgh, depending on what the quarterback situations look like. So the Panthers, and this was really pretty. I actually like this. Let's see, Bryce Young. So week 8, you could see that there are actually 3 throws that were over 20 yards down the field. This is the new play calling that we're talking about. We also saw, and I did talk about this, the ghost of Adam Thielen, 11 targets, but they weren't as efficient. 8 for 72. Jonathan Mingo, 99% snaps, 5 for 4 for 62. I would be stashing him because if you can get better efficiency out of him down the line as they basically have to see what they have, there is a sneaky road for him to be the better play as they develop chemistry. So like that's a guy that I would be looking at. If I can't get a Quentin Johnston, Jonathan Mingo may happen. So the Panthers backfield, they can't block anybody. I actually have this written down about Bryce Young. So there's bad pass blocking. There's drops. They were able to slow down the fact that Bryce Young was losing his ability to anticipate, which is like one of his big strengths coming out of college, by fixing whatever the problems were coming into this week. But they still can't block anybody. Miles Sanders was only at 18% snaps, 2 carries, no yards. Chuba was at 67% snaps, 15 carries, inefficient on his 28 yards on 15 carries, 2 for 2 for 26. He's a sneaky buy just because there's so few running backs that are going to be available going forward. Raheem Blackshear, the other running back, was at 17% snaps, 5 for 18, 1 for 1 for 4. So be advised, like it's probably going to be a running back by committee on bad offense. Let's see. DJ Shark was at 93% snaps, but he had drops. Hayden Hurst was at 33% snaps, and he had drops. Tommy Tremble, 3rd round draft pick 3 years ago out of UCLA, athletic move position tight end, up to 54% snaps. Third year is usually where we see a breakout in tight ends. He was 3 for 1 for 4 in a tug design play in the red zone. Something to be aware of going forward as the Panthers try and develop their rookie quarterback. And their defense has some value, Indianapolis and at Chicago going forward. So the Patriots, they're bad. Ramondre, not usable, barely. 58% snaps, 10 for 39, 2 for 4 for 11. Splitting time with Zeke, 42% snaps, 7 for 36. Kendrick Bourne tore his ACL. Demario Douglas, 77% snaps. I'm not interested in. Even though there may be some vacated targets, they're not using Douglas the same way Bourne was being used, and they're not good targets on a bad offense. Jalen Reagor, the former first-round pick for the Eagles, was up to 58% snaps, 2 targets. Might have a little bit more interest in him going forward than anybody else. The defense, they're still the Patriots defense. Washington, Sam Howell, the sack machine, and Indianapolis Colts bye week, and then at the Giants. Raiders, really bad at football. Jimmy G sucks. That's all you need to know. Josh Jacobs, 76% snaps, 15 for 61, and a touchdown. 4 for 2 for 27, fumbled, not lost. Josh Jacobs still an RB1 on a really bad team from a usage standpoint. Zamir White, 2% snaps, no usage. Amir Abdullah, 22% snaps, 1 for 7, 1 for 1 for 12 in the passing game. So I would still be cuffing Jacobs with White, even though I think that he's only going to get like 60% of Josh Jacobs if Jacobs goes down. Amir Abdullah would probably get the other word. I'm hoping that Aiden O'Connell gets the rest of season at this point. That would be the best outcome for the Toys. Devontae Adams, 7 targets, 1 for 11. I don't know what to do with them. Bench them, sell them. If anybody will buy them, I don't know. If someone wants to get them off the roster for a bag of chips, I would probably take them. If someone will give me a bag of chips for Devontae Adams at this point, maybe I would do that too. Jacoby Myers at 98% snaps, 1 for 1 for 19. Hunter Renfrow, season high, 61% snaps, 4 for 2 for 19. Trey Tucker down to 13% snaps. This is horrible. Michael Mayer, 91% snaps, 2 for 1 for 19. If we had functional quarterback play out of the Raiders, Michael Mayer would be a tight end 1. Austin Hooper, 22% snaps, 2 for 2 for 19. That was all in the first quarter. This team's horrible. Despite all that, the defense is okay, I guess I wrote down. The New York Giants and then the Jets. So they did get that pick 6 against the Jared Goff, and that automatically makes them a weekly winner if they can get that. So the Rams. Stafford has a sprained UCL in his thumb. 13 for 22, 162 tug, and a pick on 68% of snaps. John Walford, who was their backup quarterback last year, who's on the Bucs practice squad, said, no, I don't want to come back there. If it's not Stafford, it's going to be Brett Rippon. I have no idea. I don't want any part of this backfield. Royce Freeman, 53% snaps, got the tug. Darrell Henderson's 47% snaps, 3 for 3 for 54. If there were one guy, it'd be an RB1. Them combined, they're barely an RB3. I don't know what's going on with Myles Gaskin. Kyron Williams is supposed to be back week 11. I'm probably selling. The moment we find out about Matthew Stafford, it's going to change the value of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I would imagine with Sean McVay, Kupp and Puka are going to stay in that RB or wide receiver 2 range. I just don't know how much it's going to tank their value going forward and what everything's going to be used. So yeah, sucks to be you, sucks to be me. Defense, At Green Bay, maybe. The Ravens. Lamar, whatever. It's real football. It's not fantasy football. Lamar didn't get it done. They basically have control of the game the whole time. Gus Bus, 52% of snaps, 19 for 80, 3 touchdowns. That's not going to be predictive. Justin Hill did 4 for 40 in the passing game. Zay Flowers, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 19 yards. If they're not vertical, they're not very valuable. Bateman was up to 62% snaps. I don't want the number 3 in this offense. Mark Andrews got it done with a tug. Not a lot to say about that. And their defense may have better weekly streamers, but they're going to be a solid weekly play the rest of the season. All right, the Saints. I will never trust Derek Carr. He had 310 yards passing, 2 tugs, and lost a fumble. I think part of the reason why I won't trust him, especially on the Saints, is he's limited from a talent standpoint. And then he also has Alvin Kamara that are going to vulture touchdowns. And so he also has Taysom Hill that will vulture touchdowns. So Kamara was at 58% stats, elite usage. That's all we care about. 17 carries, 59 yards, 5 red zone carries. He cashed one of those in. 5 for 451, 1 red zone target. He cashed that in. So that's all we care about. Red zone targets, receiving work. Everything else gravy. Jamal Williams, 23% snaps. Kendry Miller, 14% snaps. I imagine if Kamara goes down, it's going to be running back by committee. Maybe I'm more interested in Kendry Miller's upside. Jamal Williams may end up being the red zone back, but again, they have Taysom Hill. Speaking of Taysom Hill, 44% snaps, 1 for 2 for 44 passing, 9 for 6 for 2 touchdowns, or 9 for 63, 2 touchdowns rushing, another 1 for 14 receiving. If he can be used as a tight end in your league, then yeah. But he's going to burn you eventually. But they're much worse guys to be rolling out there. Let's see. Olave, 174 air yards. That's what happens when you chase air yards. 9 for 5 for 46. Michael Thomas, 7 for 4 for 68. I was hoping that Rashid Shaheed would eat into Michael Thomas or Olave a little bit. He only had 27% snaps, 3 for 3 for 153 and a tug. I would roster Shaheed at this point because I could roll him out any week and maybe win. That has a lot more value than some of the other guys that I'm hoping for a 40-degree day. And then Jawan Johnson up to 61% snaps, probably not going to be a thing. Only thing he's going to do is vulture opportunity away from guys that I actually care about. And the defense has value. Chicago at Minnesota with that quarterback situation, bye. And then at Atlanta with that quarterback situation, bad coaching. Seahawks. So they traded for Leonard Williams. It looks like they're all in this year. Geno, just going to say it again every week. Low-end starter, streamer. Limited because of his ability and the rest of the offense. Kenneth Walker, season low 41% snaps. That was predictive. He was on the injury report with a calf. 8 for 66, 2 for 1 for 4. Charbonnet was a season high 59% snaps, 5 for 53, 2 for 2 for 11. And I bet this is going to be a timeshare going forward because if they're all in, they probably want to take some of the wear and tear off of Kenneth Walker so they can have the efficiency when they need it. And again, I have written down, it's worth watching. Charbonnet, if he's available and you're even not a Kenneth Walker owner, I would own Charbonnet because, again, the pathway to those guys that are going to be league winners is going to be limited. Other guy to be aware of, I think Kenny McIntosh, the running back, is going to be coming off of IR shortly, and that may cut into this situation even more. Metcalf was at 78% snaps, 14 targets. Lockett, 84% snaps, 9 targets, got the tug. JSN, 66% snaps, down. 4 targets, got a tug. Jake Bobo, 31% snaps, rushing touchdown. So again, all of them can be rolled out. I think their floors and their ceilings are all capped based off of what you want to use. And yeah, they can burn me, but I also know that you'll at least get it done for me based off their usage. Let's see. The defense, I would say no to Baltimore coming up, and then they have Redskins and at the Rams. Steelers. So Kenny Pickett got knocked out with ribs, and then he said he's going to play on Thursday. Never trust Thursday Night Football. If it's Mitch or if it's Mason Rudolph, I definitely wouldn't be rolling anybody out. Najee and Warren are in a timeshare. Let's see. Neither of them I really would feel comfortable trying to get anything out of than just like a 40-degree day. Pickens, bad coaching. 91% snaps, 5 targets, 1 reception, 22 yards, touchdown. Deontay Johnson, 91% snaps, 14 targets, 8 receptions, 85 yards. Get your best players to football. If I can't trust that, then I can't roll them out. Let's see. And the defense does have some appeal, depending on the situation. Thursday night, Tennessee, rookie Will Levis, Green Bay, bad Jordan Love, at Cleveland. Who knows? I wouldn't be rolling him out against Cincinnati at this point. Maybe Arizona, definitely at New England, and probably at the Colts. Texans, disappointing week against Carolina. Stroud didn't get it done. So the backfield, we were expecting the flip with Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. Didn't happen. Pierce got stuffed on the 1 yard line. Mike Boone back into the mix with 17% snaps, 1 reception, 1 carry. So, I want none of this backfield. If the offense isn't good and it's a running back by committee, I don't want anything to do with it. So, Nico, I'm still buying. If someone's selling 97 air yards, I could probably slide them in as a boom bust wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3 flex boom bust. Tank Dell was at 78% snaps with Robert Woods out, only 4 for 3 for 16. Dalton Schultz would be a hold if you have them, 78% snaps. All tight ends that are the number 1 or number 2 offense and their offense are going to have value. We could just say bad week, move on. And their defense is going to have some rest of season weekly appeal. The Titans. So, I'm buying Will Levis. His 4 touchdowns, he looked good. He also had 7 carries. Derrick Henry was a season high 65% snaps, highest since week 2. 22 for 101, 4 for 4 for 21. Probably not going to be King Henry, but he, with the tight or the running backs the way it is, I'm going to like what he's going to give me. Tajay Spears nearly has weekly standalone value. Definitely one of the better handcuffs. 44% snaps, 3 for 27, 4 for 3 for 9 in the passing game. Hopkins does have a toe he popped up. Be aware of. 63% snaps, 6 for 4 for 128, 104 yards. I'm buying if I can get a hold of him. The other guy I'm buying is Treylon Burks, 51% snaps, 2 targets. They were vertical. Even if Hopkins is in the lineup, I can see Burks getting a hold of this. I want pieces right now of the Titans passing game because it could be a relatively cheap upgrade and it costs me nothing to find out. So that means Chig, 72% snaps, 6 for 4 for 23 is back in play. The defense does have some value. Steelers, Tampa Bay, Jaguars, Carolina, Indy, and then definitely not going to roll them against Miami. All right, Vikings. So the Kirk Cousins roller coaster is finally over. He tore his Achilles. Nick Mullins, and they've traded for Josh Dobbs. I'm not interested in either one of those guys. I don't think they necessarily help the passing game, but they definitely don't necessarily hurt it. I think the offense would slow down, but I think they could keep some of our toys on track. Jaron Hall's the interesting thing. He is athletic, and he may be the best of the bunch. He's the guy they're going to go with this week. It is a downgrade to Addison and Hawk and Justin Jefferson when they come back. You could even roll KJ Osborne in the meantime, but I just don't know if the volume is going to be there. It wouldn't bother me so much with Jaron Hall, at least for a week, and then we'll see how it works out. Nick Mullins was serviceable when he was with the 49ers. That doesn't really bother me. We saw what Josh Dobbs is going to be like. Okay. It is a downgrade, but there are worse situations to be in, and the defense blitzes a lot. Sneaky play at Atlanta. I think that's about it. Keep it simple, and get your rosters ready for the playoffs.